part of the video, we'll be talking about the early modern architecture in the 19th century, starting with the Industrial Revolution and the Age of Iron and Glass, including three buildings: Crystal Palace, Henry Labrouste Reading Room, and Eiffel Tower. This is a timeline explaining all topics included in this presentation, starting with the Industrial Revolution at 1760, and then the Age of Iron and Glass from 1850 till 1900, including Crystal Palace at 1851, then the Labrouste Reading Room at 1860, and lastly Eiffel Tower at 1889. The Industrial Revolution happened due to discovering new materials that paved the way to new construction methods, which was revolutionary at the time and affected architecture. These materials are glass, the invention of machine, iron, and coal. The first building is Crystal Palace in London, constructed by architect Sir Joseph Paxton. And it was constructed to be a great exhibition building and a first example of prefabricated architecture. This building was inspired by the Amazonian lily Victoria. It has a total area of 92,000 meters square with an interior height of 39 meters and a total length of 564 meters. The second building is Labrouste's Reading Room, constructed by architect Henry Labrouste. This room is well known for having 16 slim columns holding up 9 terracotta domes. Each dome has a skylight that works as a light filter, and as well there's pendulums act as a connection between columns and the domes, and there's large windows to make most of the natural light. And as well, there is a system of underfloor heating to make sure that the readers are comfortable while using the space. And lastly, there's a huge system of tubes designed to bring books to and from the readers. The last building is Eiffel Tower in France, constructed by Gustave Eiffel. The construction started at 1887 and finished in 1889. The tower has a total height of 300 meters. And has 3 elevators. The first one was added in 1889 that connects from the ground to the first, and the second was added by Otis, connects from the first to the second, and the last elevator added by Edo, which connects from the second to the top floor. In good weather, we can see as far as 70 kilometers.
19th century architecture style, Art Nouveau style. Timeline of a choosing building in 19th century Art Nouveau style. The first building is Castle Residence in 1893. The second building is Glasgow School of Art in 1897. The third building is Casa Milla in 1906. And the last one is Workman Theatre in 1914. Castle Residence in Belgium in 1892 to 1893 by Victor Herta. Its first Art Nouveau house listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The house was built around an open central stairways. The decorations of the interior using curling lines, using iron and glass, and using central stairway, using modern materials in facades. Glasgow School of Art, Scotland in 1897 to 99 by Charles Rennie Mackintosh. The building plan is a long A shape with corridors along the spine. Huge deeply recessed studio windows have replaced the walls, leaving only framework of massive. The building has an eclectic unity with influences from Scottish. Volumatic massive of heavy masonry, Art Nouveau motifs, floral and geometric motifs in ironwork, using modern materials in facade with large entrance. Casa Milla, Barcelona in 1906 to 1910 by Antoni Gaudí. The construction has 6 floors taking over 2 blocks with 2 separated entrances laid out around 2 interior courtyards. The concept of the building inspired from organic shapes of the natures such as leaves, flowers, and curvy lines, are integrated as decorative elements. The facade shows individual creative freedom of characterizes of Gaudi's style. The interior of Casamella, following some organic and functional style. The entrance with organic patterns, the organic shapes on facade, natural materials such as concrete. Workband Theater, Germany in 1914 by Henry van de Velde was a modern building with reinforced concrete skeleton. The stage divided into three pillars, but these are not structure. They can be moved on rails. The auditorium plan is rectangular with no gallery. Was destroyed during World War I only a year later.
I'm going to talk about Chicago. The Great Fire and Growth of Chicago, Commercial Style Building, First Leather Building, Home Timeline Style of Chicago School of Architecture. Firstly, the Great Fire of Chicago in 1871 in a mill just west of downtown. Secondly is the First Leather Building in 1879, used cast iron and masonry to support large exterior openings. Thirdly, a home insurance building from 1885 to 1931, the first high-rise building in America to use metal frame rather than stone and brick. Growth of Chicago. In 1785, the American Congress divided the United States into uniform grids, in which many cities used this in their constructions. The first construction site was in Chicago in 1830. After 2 years, in 1932, they start using balloon frame method in their constructions. Great Fire of Chicago was in Almel on 7th of October. It destroys first 4 blocks, was burned totally, and the Great Fire starts on 8th of October and destroy the Chicago River. Here we are going to talk about William LeBaron Genie, an American architecture, used a style of extensive glazing and projected ornamentation in his architectural works. The first building of William LeBaron Genie is First Leather Building in Chicago in 1879. He used in this building extensive glazing and iron pillars behind the brick columns which support the wooden ceiling for each floor, and used narrow frame between the windows which is made up of wrought iron. This building can be constructed as true frame construction and demolished in 1972. The second building of William LeBaron Genie is the Home Insurance Building in Chicago from 1885 to 1931. This building is the first high-rise building in America which used metal frame rather than stones and brick. This building is a 10-story building and considered the first skyscraper in America. It also used metal columns and beams to support the building upper levels, and since the walls no longer carried the building weight, enabled to use thinner curtain wall, thus freeing up more usable space. The construction columns and beams that is applied to the exterior wall could be replaced by glass to reduce the amount of electrical lights. A steel frame was used for virtual fireproof. The building was demolished in 1931. Conclusion. In conclusion, the Great Fire was a great distortion to Chicago, which leads them to look forward to make perfect constructions that result in growth of Chicago, using commercial style buildings such as First Leather Building and Home Insurance Building, that was constructed by William LeBaron Genie from 1832 to 1907 in America.
New York skyscrapers. Skyscrapers spread along New York in reason of the new technical improvement. Today we'll talk about the New York skyscrapers. First, Manhattan Life Insurance Building. Second, Singer Building. Third, Metropolitan Life Insurance Tower. Fourth, Woolworth Building. Life Insurance Building started at 1893 and ended at 1930. The tallest building in the world for 7 months in 1894. first skyscraper to cross the 100-meter mark, the Manhattan Life Insurance Building, was 348 feet. That's 106-meter tower at 64 to 66 Broadway in New York City, completed in 1894. Extended north in 1904, making its new address 64 to 70 Broadway. Manhattan Life Insurance Building was made up of steel reinforced concrete, precast concrete, mixed structure composite. The Singer Tower. It started in 1906 and ended in 1908. The tallest building in the world at that time except for the Eiffel Tower. The Singer Building had two main volumes, a 12-story podium that occupied the entire lot and 29-story tower with a maximum height of 186 meters that had been offset from the street to enhance its verticality. It was built using steel columns grid and a slab that uses the same system. The top of the building had a dome with 4 edges, with the main volume through a stone pediment. The horizontal line was repeated 3 times in the tower to harmonize the proportions. The interior had a similar details as the facade. It has strongly decorated dome columns and the lighting fixtures that it was inserted in the domes, provoking a vertical effect. The Metropolitan Life Insurance Tower started in 1907 and ended in 1909. The tallest building in the world started at 1909 till 1913. The most important insurance company of the country decided to take up the challenge by adding a 700-foot tower to the existing building in 1893. The building design idea was to copy in a larger scale in Company of San Marco in Venice. Woolworth Tower started in 1910 and ended in 1913. A Gothic-style skyscraper of a full block front on a Broadway. Above the 24th floor, a tower rises to the equivalent of 55 stories and is capped by a high-pitched copper roof, a green patina crowned with a tracery and gargoyles.
Lloyd Wright, 1867 to 1959. Frank Lloyd Wright helped to pioneer the concept of organic architecture, with interiors and exteriors in balanced harmony. In this philosophy, a house could be compared to a living organism with all parts relating to the whole, making form and function W. The Frank Lloyd Wright divide to 5 steps. Early years 1887 to 1893, first period 1893 to 1914, second period 1914 to 1936, third period 1936 to 1945, final works 1959. Portugal House, 1893. Architecture features: O complexity of the massing, O the dormer details, O Palladian windows, O the varied textures of shingles, O a geometric purity. Hillside Home School Line, 1887. The building style is shingle style. Wright's first house, Oak Park, 1889. O a modest residence reminiscent of the East Coast shingle style with its prominent roof gable. O geometric shapes and volumes in the studio and playroom. We moved now to first period 1893 to 1914. It became famous. The prairie style houses. Architecture features: low-pitched roofs, clean skylines, no attics or basements, deep overhang. The William H. Winslow House, 1893. The Roby House, 1908 to 1909. Horizontals of the roof. Elongated enclosure. House seems larger than it is. Continuous bands of art glass windows. The use of Roman brick emphasized the horizontal. Moved to second period, 1914 to 1936, And we'll talk about the Imperial Hotel in Tokyo, 1915, engineered on a floating foundation with reinforced steel. Only 1 year after its completion, the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923 devastated the city and tested the architect's claim. To third period, 1936 to 1945. We'll talk about first the Herbert and Catherine Jacobs first house, 1937. The house is an L-shaped structure. It's featured new approaches to construction. The Falling Water first house, 1936 to 1939. The construction is a series of cantilevered balconies and terraces, using limestone for all vertical and final works, 1959. Modern architecture. The Solomon Guggenheim Museum, designed by 1945. The construction was delayed for a 16-year period. An inverted ziggurat. The design was meant to imitate an ancient structure known as a ziggurat. A ziggurat is a pyramid that has a walkway along the outer edges that grows narrower as it rises. Rotunda. The visitors first enter into a large rotunda. This is a vast, spacious area that sits at the base of the open center of the museum. The spiraling walkway can be seen rising upwards until it reaches the large skylight at the top of the booth. The same period there is two types of architecture begin. Rise of modernism in Europe and Russia. Expressionism. Brick expressionism is a special variant of this movement in Western and Northern Germany and in the Netherlands. Amsterdam School. Expressionist architecture is one of the three dominant styles of modern architecture. Famous expressionist architects Hans Poelzig, 1869 to 1936, Max Berg, 1870 to 1947, Bruno Taut, 1880 to 1938, Dr. Bavink School by Willem Marinus Dudok, in Hilversum, the Netherlands, 1921 to 1922. The layering of planes to focus on the main entry and then culminate in the landmark chimney to create a readable identity for the school within the dense urban fabric. The two-floor central wing contained 8 classrooms organized along single-loaded corridors. The floor plan had a Z shape running front to back on the site. German-American architect and educator who, particularly as director of the Bauhaus, 1919-28, exerted a major influence on the development of modern architecture. The Bauhaus style of architecture features rigid angles of glass, masonry and steel, together creating patterns. Instruction focused less on function, like so many Bauhaus offerings, and more on abstraction. Gropius Dessau, Germany, 1925 to 1932. Gropius design was bringing together arts, crafts and industry into a total work of art. The built manifestation of the new abstract language of modernism, composed of intersecting horizontal and vertical lines. And concrete structure forms the frame of the building, ensuring the unity of the complex, rationally articulated pure spaces. Functionalism, innovative usage of modern materials, such as the glass curtain walls in the facades. Horizontal windows. An absence of ornamentation, innovative usage of modern materials, such as the glass curtain walls in the facades. Horizontal windows. An absence of ornamentation, the use of brick, more specifically, a 40 cm high, dark brick base which projects 4 cm from the facade. A series of brick piers suspend iron frames between that supports glass inserts. The most innovative feature of the building is the fully glazed exterior corners, which are free of structural elements. The first Werkbund exhibition of 1914 was held at Rheinpark in Cologne, Germany. Bruno Taut's best-known building, the prismatic dome of the glass pavilion, was a brightly colored landmark. Walter Gropius and Adolf Meyer designed a model factory.
I'm going to talk about modernism pre-war modern architecture from 1910 to 1930. Timeline style for modernism building. The first building is Schroeder House in 1924. The second building is the Zoyev Workers Club from 1927 to 1929. Now I'm going to talk about 3 different architecture styles. Firstly, Doestal architecture. Doestal architecture was a Dutch artistic movement named after an eponymous modern art magazine, first published in 1917. It was founded and controlled by the painter, writer, and architect Theo van Doesburg. While the most important characteristics of this style architecture is principle of geometry of the straight line, primary colors, and relationships between positive and negative elements in an arrangement of non-objective forms and lines. Schroeder House in 1924, designed by Gerrit Rietveld in Netherlands. The building features include primary colors like black and white, and used slabs, posts, and beams reflecting the movement of the form. Sliding walls by day is open space, and by evening can be separated into uh, 3 rooms. Iconic corner window, large window and a small one perpendicular to it swing open, dissolving the corners to make it feel like one is outdoor. The second architecture style is deconstructivism. Deconstructivism architecture is a form of modern architecture that developed in Soviet Union after the Russian Revolution in 1920s to early 1930s, and inspired by the Bauhaus and the wider constructivist art movement that emerged from Russian futurism. While the most important characteristics of it is 3D cubism, straight lines, cylinders, cubes, and rectangles, merging elements of the modern age such as radio antenna, tension cables, concrete frames, and steel girders, exploration of modern materials such as steel frames. The second building we have is the Zoev Workers Club in 1927 to 1929, designed by Ilya Glazov in Moscow. The building has cylindrical glazed staircase which intersect with ducts rectangular floor plans to create a dramatic composition. It has open foyer lead to an 850 seats auditorium and extensive glazing. The third and the last architecture style is the international style. International style is defined by Hitchcock and Johnson had developed in 1920s Western Europe, shaped by the activities of Dutch Dostal movement. Its principles is architecture as enclosed space, attempt at regular modularity, avoidance of superimposed decoration, and a harmony between artistic expression function. Conclusion. To sum up, it was introduced in this lecture the 3 types of styles: the Dostal architecture in 1917, the constructivism in 1920 to 1930, the international style from 1918 to 1950, and the buildings that are constructed according to the style of architecture such as Schroeder House and the Zoev Workers Club.
Late Modernism from 1940 to 1960, post-war modern architecture. Timeline of a chosen building in late modernism. The first building is Glass House in 1949. The second building is the Lever Building from 1952 to 1956. The third building is the Crown Hall in 1952 to 1956. And the last one is the New National Gallery from 1962 to 1967. The Glass House, New Canaan, United States by Philip Johnson in 1949. The house is an international style. The glass house is best understood as a pavilion for viewing surrounding landscape. The house is 16.7 meter long and 10 meter wide with 168 square meters. The house using an innovative materials which integration into the landscape. The interior size of glass house using steel and glass. Furniture designed by Ms. Van Droo. The interior using brick cylinder contains a bathroom. As Philip Johnson said, the only house in the world where you can see sunset and moonrise at the same time standing in the same place. The Crown Hall, Chicago by Ms. Van Droo in 1952 to 1956. The design of the building is simple. As Ms. Van Droo described it, the building is almost nothing. He used of the shelf components, including standard glass panes and steel I-beams, made the building economical to construct. A suspended roof without interiors columns created universal spaces that could be endlessly adapted to new uses. The Lever Building in Manhattan, New York City, by some in 1952 to 1956. The building is 24-story with blue-green heat-resistant glass and stainless steel curtain wall. It's the first time the ground floor contained no tenants. Instead, it features an open plaza with garden and pedestrian walks. Only small portion of ground floor was enclosed in glass and marble. The top of the low horizontal base podium functioned as outside elevated plaza accessible from the employee cafeteria to base of the tower. New National Gallery in Berlin, Germany by Ms. van der Rohe in 1962 to 1967. Museum for Modern Art in Berlin. Building used steel and glass that rises on stone plinth generated by different levels of the street. Grade cover 64.8 square meters in length, supported by cross-8 support in its perimeter. 2 in each side, the corners cantilever. The roof is made up of a webbed steel beams network of dark metal beams. Steel and glass out inside. Entire structure is a steel. Enclosure is made of glass with stainless steel pillars. This building can get natural light enters the glass walls and reflected the glossy polished floor. The usual lighting in the rooms prepares the visitor's new look at the house.